The day's binding is done. The press is at rest. The last signatures have been sewn. The smell of paste and leather and freshly cut vellum still drifts through the warm air of the workshop, rich and complicated in particular. In a narrow street off the Via dei Libri in Florence, a man named Luca is finishing his work. He is a bookbinder. A maker of books. One of the quieter craftsmen in a city famous for everything it makes. Every morning before the light is good enough, he is here. Checking the press. Mixing the paste. Cutting the boards. And every evening, when the binding is done, there is a ritual. The cleaning of the tools. The setting of the press. The slow, deliberate closing of the day. Tonight, like every night, Luca will close his workshop before rest. Let us join him as the workshop quiets. The workshop occupies the ground floor of a narrow stone building. 2 rooms. The larger one is the bindery proper, the working room, where the light is best and the space allows the press to stand and the long table to run its full length. The smaller room is the store, boards stacked upright, rolls of covering leather on their pegs, paper and vellum in their proper order. The press dominates the bindery. It is a wooden screw press, massive and dark with the oil of decades. Its iron fittings are worn bright where hands grip them daily. The screw, when turned, exerts pressure enough to flatten a signature of pages into a uniform thickness, to bond the spine, to set the boards flush. Luca's father bought it new. Luca has used it so long he no longer really sees it, the way you stop seeing a familiar face. The evening light comes through the 2 windows that face the street. It is late October. The light is low and golden, falling across the work table at a steep angle, making the grain of the wood glow. Luca stands at the table. He is a man of 50. Medium height. Neat in his person, as bookbinders must be. Dust and grime are enemies of fine work, and the habit of cleanliness is hard to separate from the work itself. His hands are clean now, washed before the final tasks. They are the hands of his trade. The left palm shows an old callus at the base of the thumb from the bone folder. The right index finger is slightly flattened from pressing signatures into shape. He looks at the table for a moment. Then begins. He looks at what stands on the shelf. 3 completed books. Today's output. The first is a commission from a merchant near the Ponte Vecchio, a ledger, nothing decorative about it, but solidly made. Thick boards. Strong linen spine. The kind of book that will be opened and closed 1,000 times without complaint. Luca has no feeling about ledgers, particularly. They are honest work. The second is more interesting. A psalter, for a woman in the Altrarno district whose husband died in the summer. She came herself to commission it, a small book, portable, to carry to the church of Santa Croce. Luca bound it in brown calf, smooth as cloth, with a single gilt line tooled along each board. Simple. Appropriate. Something that would last her lifetime and could be left to a daughter. The third is the one he keeps looking at. A copy of Petrarch's Canzoniere, ordered by a young man whose name Luca knows but whose father's money is what actually pays. The young man wants something beautiful. He specified the material himself. Red leather, dyed deep as wine. Luca has used an arabesque pattern on the covers, the design set in blind, not guilt, more restrained, he thought, than the young man asked for, but better. More lasting. He had finished the tooling this afternoon. It is, he thinks, good work. He takes the bone folder from its place. It is made from the shoulder blade of a sheep, shaped and smoothed over years of use to a particular curve that fits exactly the cup of his left palm. He has never seen another folder with quite this shape. It is his, wholly. He runs his thumb along its edge. The bone is warm, smooth, the edge still keen where he keeps it. He will use it now for the final pressing of the day's paste downs, the end papers that will be glued to the inside of each board, the last step before a book can be said to be fully closed. The paste downs on the Psalter need one more check. He opened the book this morning to verify the adhesion. The right board had a slight bubble near the spine. Slight enough that a customer might not find it for a year. Luca found it in the morning. He will press it again now, carefully, with the folder, and leave the book in the press overnight. He opens the Psalter. He holds the Psalter under the window's last good light. The paste down is the sheet of paper glued to the inner face of each board. It covers the raw board, hides the leather turnover, creates the smooth interior a reader encounters first when opening the book. When it is right, it looks inevitable. When it is wrong, bubbled, wrinkled, lifted at an edge, it announces that something was hasty. He finds the bubble near the spine. Small. The size of a thumbprint. The paper is slightly proud of the board surface, the adhesive not quite holding. He works the bone folder over it. Steady pressure. Working from the edge of the bubble toward the spine, not away from it. This is the direction that works. Push the air out toward the bound edge, where it can escape. The bubble shrinks. He works it again. Patience. The paste is old enough to be tacky but not so old it is set hard. There is still time. The bubble flattens. He holds the folder in place for a long moment, applying pressure without motion, letting the adhesive take. Then slowly lifts the folder. The paste down lies flat against the board. He breathes. Good. He thinks about the woman who ordered the Psalter. She came in August. Her dress still showed the formal black of mourning, recent, then, or continuing. She was perhaps 40. A practical face, not unfriendly, but not the face of someone who expects things to go well. She knew what she wanted. The book she had been using was falling apart. The sewing gone, the spine cracked, the boards loose. It had belonged to her mother and had been rebound once already. She didn't bring it to be rebound again. She wanted a new one. Starting again. Luca had asked what she wanted. Something that will outlast me, she said. Not dramatically. Just factually. He had thought about that while he was working on it. Outlast her. Which meant decades, probably. Which meant the sewing mattered as much as the cover. The linen thread through proper vellum tabs, not paper. The boards heavy enough to protect without warping. He had done all of that. He hopes she will be pleased. He thinks she will. He carries the Psalter to the press. The press has a current occupant, a small quarto that has been under pressure since noon, its spine drying after resuing. He needs to add the salter without disturbing the quarto's position. This requires thought. He slides a board between the quarto and the salter, separating them so the pressure distributes evenly. Then a second board against the salter's outer face. He checks the alignment. The books must be square within the press or the pressure will be uneven. He tightens the press screw. Not to full tension. The salter's paste downs need pressure, not crushing. He tightens until the resistance tells him the books are held firmly, and stops. His father told him, the press does not need to punish the book. It only needs to persuade it. He has said this to his own apprentice, Pietro, more than once. The screw is set. The books are held. Tomorrow morning, when the press opens, the paste down will be flat. He returns to the red Petrarch. This book he will not put in the press tonight. The binding is fully set. The tooling is done. What remains is a final inspection. He carries it to the window and holds it in the last of the light. The leather is very good. He sourced it from a courier in the Altrarno who had been given a commission he could not fill and sold the surplus at a fair price. Deep red, almost brown in certain lights, with a fine grain that the tools bit into cleanly. He turns the book slowly. The arabesque pattern covers both boards. He made the design himself, adapting from a pattern book he has kept for 20 years. A vine-based form, repeating without being mechanical, with a central lozenge that draws the eye. In the low light, the blind tooling is subtle. When the light catches it, the design emerges from the leather like something always there. He is pleased. Not excessively, but genuinely. He thinks about the young man who ordered it. He came in with his cousin, who did most of the talking. The young man was perhaps 22. He had the look of someone who has recently come into either money or confidence, or both. He wanted the book to impress someone, that was clear. He mentioned several times that it was a gift without saying for whom. Luca had not asked. The young man's instructions were specific in some ways and vague in others. Red leather. Gold tooling. Something beautiful. Luca had suggested the blind arabesque instead of gold. Gold is for the inside of churches, he had said. Blind tooling is for a book that will be held in the hand. The young man had wavered. His cousin had tilted his head. Then the young man agreed. Luca wonders if he will be pleased. He thinks he will, once he sees it. Some things you cannot explain in advance. You simply have to show them. The door to the store opens. Pietro comes through. He is 19. The son of a draper from the San Giovanni district. He has been with Luca for 3 years. He is patient, which is the quality Luca most requires. Bookbinding cannot be done quickly. Every stage has its proper time. The paste must dry. The sewing must be tight. The press must be left to do its work. A young man who chafes at waiting makes a poor bookbinder. Pietro does not chafe. I've stacked the boards, Pietro says. How? By size. Large to small, left shelf. Luca nods. The vellum tabs? Cut and sorted. The bone folder you were using this afternoon? A pause. On the table. It should be on the rack. Pietro crosses the room and moves the folder to its hook on the tool rack. A simple correction. He does not argue or explain. This is what Luca values. Not servility. He does not want that. He wants someone who understands that the placement of tools is part of the work. A folder left on a table is a folder that can be knocked to the floor, chipped on stone, lost. A folder on its hook is a folder that will be there in the morning. He turns to the tool rack. It runs along the wall above the work table. Iron hooks, spaced at Luca's own specification, each one holding a tool. Bone folders of different sizes. Paring knives, their edges kept with particular care. Needles sorted by gauge, coiled with linen thread. The awl for piercing signatures. The small hammer for setting the headband. Each tool has its place. He runs his eye along the rack. The paring knife is clean. He cleaned it himself after the morning's leather work. A paring knife left with grease on the blade becomes dull faster and marks the next leather it touches. It takes 30 seconds to clean. He has always done it. The needles are in order. The hammer is hung correctly, face outward, handle tucked. He has arranged this rack over 20 years. Some hooks he moved once and moved back. Some he discovered in the right place the first time. The rack is one of the things about the workshop he genuinely loves. The workshop smells are particular at this hour. During working hours, the smell of paste dominates. Wheat flour paste, cooked fresh each morning, it has a clean, slightly sweet smell, warm and slightly institutional. The smell of school or church or any place where paper and binding and organization accumulate. Now, with the paste pot cleaned in the evening cooling the room, other smells surface. Leather is the strongest. The scraps from today's work are in the waste bucket by the door. Red leather, mostly, offcuts from the Petrarch's boards and spine. Leather has a smell that is difficult to describe, animal and mineral together, the smell of something that was once alive and has been transformed into something durable. Wood. The press is oak. The work table is walnut. Old wood in a warm room smells of itself, dense, slightly sweet, deeply familiar. And underneath, the smell of ink. Not from today. Luca is a binder, not a scribe, and no writing is done here, but from books themselves, from the pages he handles daily. Old paper has its own scent, dry and complex. He breathes these smells without thinking about them. They are the smell of his life. Pietro is wrapping the leather scraps for disposal. He does it carefully, even scraps have uses, and Luca has told him which sizes to save. He pauses. The arabesque on the Petrarch, he says. The central lozenge. Luca waits. I couldn't see, when you were setting the tools, how you knew where to place it. The exact center. Luca considers the question. It is a good one. The kind of question Pietro has been asking with more frequency lately, not the simple questions of a beginner, but the questions that get at the principles beneath the techniques. You measure first, Luca says. Find the true center with the dividers. Mark it lightly with the awl, a point only. And then you look at it. The eye knows things the dividers don't. Sometimes the true center and the visual center are not the same. Pietro is quiet for a moment, absorbing this. Which do you trust? Both. You start with the dividers and finish with the eye. Pietro nods slowly. This is how skill becomes understanding. Not the movements of the hand but the reasons behind them. With the work quieting, he can hear the street. The Via dei Libri is the street of booksellers, and in the daytime it has a particular quality of sound, the voices of customers, the scrape of heavy folios being moved, the occasional argument over price or commission or delivery. A street where a lot of business is conducted. At evening, it changes. Shutters going up. The particular sound of iron window bolts sliding home. A cart moving away, its wheels loud on the stone. Two voices arguing somewhere at the end of the street, cheerfully, it sounds like, not in anger. He can hear the bell from the campanile of the church around the corner. Not a full peal, just a single stroke. A reminder of the hour. Florence at evening has a sound he cannot fully describe. It is a city of stone, and stone carries sound differently than wood. Everything echoes slightly. Even conversation, heard through walls, has a particular resonance. He has lived in this city his whole life. He knows its voice the way he knows the sound of the press. He turns to the paste pot. It sits in a small brazier, not lit now, the coals gone cool, on the shelf near the window. The paste was cooked fresh this morning and used through the day. What remains must be dealt with. He lifts the lid. The paste is thick now. It dried somewhat through the afternoon. At the bottom, a skin is formed. He takes the stirring stick and works through it. There is just enough left for tomorrow's morning, if he stores it covered and cool. If he does not, it will sour by dawn. Paste that is soured smells distinctly wrong, and worse, it weakens. Adhesive that has begun to break down bonds less securely. He covers the pot tightly with its wooden lid and sets it on the cold stone of the lower shelf. Cold overnight, covered, it will keep. He wipes the rim of the pot with a damp cloth. Dried paste on the rim will crack the seal of the lid and let air in. These are small things. They matter completely. He takes the dividers from the shelf and examines their joint. The dividers are a measuring tool, two legs of iron, hinged at the top, used to transfer measurements, to find centers, to mark spacing. His dividers are old. He bought them used from an instrument maker who was retiring, 23 years ago. They have worked ever since. The joint is stiff tonight. He works it carefully. Too stiff and the dividers will spring when you try to hold a measurement. Too loose and they will drift. He takes a single drop of oil on the tip of his finger and works it into the joint. Opens and closes the dividers several times. The stiffness eases. He sets them to a measurement, the width of a standard board, and they hold. Good. He replaces them on the shelf. He has had conversations with himself, over the years, about buying new dividers. The instrument makers in Florence produce excellent tools. He could afford them. But the old ones work. And they have something the new ones would not have, they are known. Their weight in his hand. The particular click of the joint at the right tension. He will keep them until they fail. Pietro has taken the broom. He sweeps the floor with methodical strokes, working from the back of the room toward the door, as Luca taught him. The floor of the bindery is stone, which is the right material for this work. Wood would absorb the paste, the water, the leather scraps. Stone can be swept clean. The sweeping raises small puffs of dust. Paper dust, mostly. Fine as flour. Luca watches Pietro work. The young man is developing the particular economy of motion that good craft requires. When he first came, Pietro moved with the energy of someone who thought effort was the same as work. 3 years have changed that. He moves more slowly now, more precisely. His strokes are longer and require fewer passes. This is the thing Luca has tried to teach and suspects cannot quite be taught. It must be arrived at through the accumulated experience of doing. Pietro is arriving at it. Don't raise the dust, Luca says. Slower. Pietro slows his strokes. The dust settles rather than rising. He says nothing. Just adjusts and continues. He thinks about his own apprenticeship. He began at 14, in this same workshop. His master then was a man named Bernardo, who had learned the trade in Venice and brought northern methods to Florence. Bernardo was not warm, but he was precise, and precision was what the work required. Luca had been a better student than Pietro, he thinks. Quicker to learn the sequences, the techniques. But Pietro has something Luca did not have at 19, a certain groundedness, a quality of settling into a task without restlessness. Perhaps Luca has idealized his own learning. Memory adjusts. What he knows is that Bernardo taught him by showing, not telling. You watched. You attempted. You were corrected without explanation. You watched again. Eventually the correct motion became natural. He has taught Pietro the same way, mostly. But sometimes he adds the explanation. Why the bone folder works from spine toward foredge. Why the paste must be cooked long enough to lose its rawness but not so long that the gluten breaks down. Why the boards must be stored upright. He suspects the explanations are for himself as much as for Pietro. They force him to understand what he does, not merely to do it. He crosses to the leather shelf in the storeroom. The skins hang on their pegs, each sorted by type. Brown calf, the most common, the most versatile. White alum-tawed skin, expensive, used for special commissions. Pigskin, tougher, more resistant, good for documents that will be handled roughly or stored in damp places. And the red he used for the Petrarch, the last of that particular courier's surplus. He should order more. He runs his hand along a calf skin. The grain is even. Smooth under the palm. Leather is one of the things he thinks about with real pleasure. Not all bookbinders do. Some think of it purely as material, as a means of covering a board. He has always thought of it as its own thing. It came from an animal. It was processed by the courier into something that will last a century if properly used. It has qualities, grain direction, stretch, thickness variation, that must be understood before it can be worked. He selects a piece of brown calf and holds it up. Good. He will use this for a commission due next week. A legal document case for a notary in the Santa Croce district. He replaces it on its peg. Finishes the floor. Pietro has swept the bindery. The dust is collected near the door in a small heap. He scoops it up with the flat piece of wood Luca keeps for that purpose and carries it to the waste bucket. Then he comes to find Luca in the store. "Floor's done," he says. "The windows?" Pietro returns to the bindery. Luca can hear the shutters being pulled closed and latched. The light in the store dims. Then Pietro's step returns. Both shutters. "The waste bucket," Luca says. "Outside, near the wall." "Not in the street." "Yes." Pietro takes the bucket and goes. This is the texture of an evening in the workshop, the small, specific instructions that Luca gives not because Pietro would not eventually remember, but because the repetition is itself the teaching. You tell him to put the waste bucket near the wall and not in the street 20 times, and then one day he puts it near the wall without being told. That day will come. It has not come yet for the waste bucket. It has come for many other things. He goes back to stand before the 3 finished books on the shelf. The ledger. The psalter. The Petrarch. 3 objects. 3 purposes. The ledger will hold accounts. The psalter will carry prayers. The Petrarch, love poems, from a century past, still being read, still being bound in new covers, will give someone pleasure, or perhaps the appearance of cultivation, or both. These are not the same purpose, but they are all legitimate. Luca has thought about this over the years. What his work is for. The book as object is not the book as content. He does not write the words. He does not choose the texts. He receives folded and sewn signatures, pages already printed or written, and his work is to make them into something that will survive use. That will open and close 10,000 times without the spine splitting. That will sit on a shelf for 50 years without the boards warping. His job is duration. He sometimes thinks, not a maker of beautiful things but a maker of things that last. The beauty is secondary, pleasing, when achieved, but secondary. A beautiful book that falls apart in a decade is a worse book than an ugly one that holds for a century. This is, he thinks, a defensible position. He picks up a signature of paper from the demonstration shelf. He keeps this, a single gathering of 6 leaves, folded and sewn through a vellum tab, as a teaching object. He used it first with Pietro. He has used it many times before with previous apprentices. He holds it up, letting the low light fall on the sewing. The thread runs along the spine of the signature, passing through the paper and the tab with a precise pattern, kettle stitch at the end, sewing back through the previous signature at each station. The result is a structure that holds the leaves together and allows the book to open flat. The sewing is invisible when the book is finished. Covered by the spine leather, hidden within the binding. But it is the most important thing. A book is held together by its sewing. Boards can be replaced. Leather can be repaired. The sewing, once failed, requires the book to be completely disassembled and resewn. It is the heart of the structure. He always sews with more care than any other part of the work. He sets the signature back on the shelf. He thinks about the morning. Tomorrow he will begin a new commission, a set of 4 account books for a wool merchant guild in the Piazza Santa Maria Novella. Large books. Substantial work. He has already cut the boards, they are stacked in the store. Pietro will help with the lining of the spines. Before that, he will open the press. Check the paste downs on the salter. He expects them to be flat. They should be. He will mix new paste. That will take the first part of the morning. The paste must be made fresh, cannot be left from one day to the next in weather that is warming. He is looking forward to it. This is a thing he notices about himself. At 50, he is still looking forward to the work. There are days when the work is tedious, of course. Large repeating commissions can become mechanical. Some customers are difficult. Some problems in the work cannot be solved to his satisfaction. But he is still, on most mornings, glad to begin. He counts this as luck. Not everyone gets to spend their life doing work they are glad to return to. Pietro comes back from disposing of the waste bucket. He stands in the doorway, waiting. "Wash your hands," Luca says. "Then you can go." Pietro goes to the basin at the back of the store. The sound of water. Then he returns, drying his hands on the cloth. He looks at Luca with a question in his expression. "The Petrarch," Pietro says. "Is it finished?" "It is." "May I see it?" Luca takes the book from the shelf and holds it under the small lamp Pietro has lit, the workshop's evening lamp, a simple oil lamp near the door. Pietro looks at it. He doesn't say anything immediately. He turns the book over in his hands. Not opening it, he knows better than to open a book without permission, just examining the cover. "The arabesque," he says. "Yes." "It's not the design from the pattern book." Luca looks at him. "No. It's different. The central form. I changed it." Pietro is quiet for a moment. "Why?" "Because the book told me to," Luca says. And then, because Pietro deserves better than a mystical answer, the proportion of the board required a longer central lozenge. The pattern book's version would have been too wide. I adjusted. Pietro nods. He hands the book back with care. Pietro takes his cloak from the peg near the door. "Tomorrow," Luca says. "The boards for the guild books need to be checked. Some of them may have shifted. I'll check them before breakfast." "Before I arrive," Luca says. "Not at the same time. Before you arrive." This is how it works. Pietro arrives first, now, he has for the past year. He checks the press, checks the tools, ensures the space is ready. When Luca arrives, the morning is already begun. It was not always this way. For the first 2 years, Luca arrived first. But Pietro has reached the point where being given responsibility is itself part of the teaching. Responsibility with oversight. He does the first checks, and Luca verifies. He takes the first step, and Luca follows. The transition from apprentice to craftsman is not a single moment. It is accumulated over 100 small surrenderings of control. "Good night," Pietro says. "Good night." He pulls the door open and steps into the street. The sound of his footsteps fades in the stone lane. Luca is alone. There is a particular quality to the workshop alone at evening. In the daytime, with 2 people working, The room fills with the sounds of the trade, the scrape of the paring knife, the rhythmic pressure of the bone folder, the clunk of the press screw, the occasional word passed between them. These sounds accumulate into a kind of music. Now, silence. Not absolute. The lamp near the door makes the small sound of burning. The press makes the occasional settling sound of wood under tension. Outside, the street continues its evening diminuendo. But the human sound is gone. Luca stands in his workshop alone and looks at it. This room has been his for 22 years. Before that, it was Bernardo's, and before Bernardo it belonged to another binder whose name Luca does not know. The press is the oldest thing in it. The tool rack he built himself, replacing Bernardo's simpler arrangement. The shelves are his, built to his specifications, at the angles and heights he decided. It is entirely known to him. And in the evenings, alone, he finds it beautiful. He takes the oil lamp and moves through the workshop slowly. The lamp changes the room. Daylight shows it as a working space, functional, slightly crowded, organized around the press and table. Lamplight shows it differently. The shadows deepen in the corners. The press becomes monumental, its dark wood almost black. The books on the shelf catch the light on their covers, the red Petrarch glowing like an ember. He pauses before the press. Runs his hand along its beam. The wood is worn where hands have touched it for decades. A slight smoothing at the edges. The surface of much-used things. He has read, somewhere, a passage from an ancient text about craftsmen, the idea that a craftsman's identity and the work cannot be fully separated. That who you are and what you make inform each other. He is not certain he believes this completely. He is a man separate from his books. But there is something in it. The press, the tools, the particular smell of the workshop at evening, these are as much himself as anything. He is who he is partly because of 22 years in this room. He thinks about the house. He lives 2 streets away. 5 minutes on foot, or 3 if the lanes are clear. He knows every step. His wife, Katerina, will have supper ready. She always does. He has never arrived home to a cold hearth. They have been married for 26 years. 3 children, all grown. His eldest daughter, Fiora, married a wool merchant and lives in the Quartiere di Santa Croce. His son Matteo works in the workshop, not as a bookbinder, but in the selling, the accounts, the correspondence with clients. It is useful to have someone who can do what Luca cannot. His youngest, Beatrice, has been in a convent since she was 18, by her own choice, and seems content. He thinks of his children with the particular mixture of completeness and distance that children who have grown produce in a parent. They needed him fully once. They need him partially now. This is the correct direction for things to go. What remains is him and Katerina and the work. This is enough. More than enough. He goes to the storeroom and examines the boards for the Guild Commission. They are oak boards, cut to a large quarto size, wide and substantial. He stacked them yesterday, interspersed with strips of waste paper to keep air between them. Boards must breathe. Sealed flat against each other, they can develop moisture and warp. He lifts the top board and sights along its face. Flat. He checks the next one. Flat. The third has a slight curve at one end, a beginning of something, not yet a problem. He repositions it, placing it concave side down so the weight of the boards above will work against the warp, not with it. He will check it again in the morning. This is the kind of problem that rewards watching. A board that is tended to early remains usable. A board left to warp becomes waste. He replaces the stack. He goes to the window and unlatches the shutter on one side, opening it a crack. The night air comes in, cool and slightly damp. Florence in late October is already turning toward winter. The warmth of September is gone. In the evenings, you can smell the stone cooling. The street is nearly empty now. A man walking with a lantern at the far end, his light moving steadily away. A cat on a wall, watching something only it can see. The sky above the rooftops is deep blue at the top, turning to a lighter gray near the horizon. The first stars are out. He looks at the stars. This is something he has always done. An old habit from his childhood, when his father, not a craftsman, but a cloth merchant, would take him to the roof of their house on clear evenings and name the constellations. He does not remember all the names now. But the looking remains. He does not think of himself as a man who watches the stars. He simply looks at them, sometimes, at the end of a day. He closes the shutter and latches it. He thinks about Katerina. They were married when he was 24 and she was 22. It was not a love match in the way that stories tell. There were families involved, and negotiations, and the usual calculations of compatibility that people make when they are being practical about the matter. But he had liked her from the beginning. She was direct. She said what she meant. She was amused by things he found amusing, which seemed important. 26 years later, the liking has deepened into something that is harder to name. Not passion, that was early, and now lives in a different form. Not simple contentment, which sounds like settling. Something more like the certainty of a well-made structure. A thing that holds because it was built with care and has been maintained. He is aware that he is thinking about his marriage the way he thinks about a book. He suspects this is appropriate. He takes the lamp and makes one final circuit of the workshop. This is his practice. He has done it for as long as he has had the workshop. A slow walk, counterclockwise, checking each station. The press, secure. The screw is set. The books are held. The work table, clear. The bone folder on its hook. The knives in their places. The awl in its designated spot. The paste pot, covered and on the cold shelf. The tool rack, complete. The leather shelf, draped with the cloth he uses to protect the skins from dust overnight. The waste bucket, outside, near the wall, where Pietro placed it. The water basin, covered. Nothing left open. Nothing that should be covered, uncovered. Nothing that should be secure, loose. He pauses at the center of the room. The workshop is ready for the night. He breathes. There is a small clay lamp that burns through the night near the door. Not the lamp he has been carrying, that one he will extinguish. This is a different lamp, a night lamp, smaller and using less oil. Its purpose is modest. enough light to see by if he needs to come in late at night, enough of a presence to discourage anyone considering the workshop as a target. He checks its oil. Full enough. He topped it this morning. The wick is trimmed to the correct length. A wick too long burns too fast and makes too much smoke. Too short and the flame is uncertain. He touches the wick. Right. The night lamp will burn from now until well past dawn. When Pietro arrives, he will find the workshop lamp burning steadily, just as he always finds it. That steadiness is itself a kind of message. Things are as they should be. You can begin. He stands before the shelf holding the 3 finished books. Tomorrow the merchant will send for the ledger. He does not care about the ledger, particularly. It is sound work, but not the work that moves him. The psalter will be collected by the woman from the Altrarno district. He hopes she will be satisfied. He thinks she will. The Petrarch will be picked up by the young man or his cousin. Luca is slightly curious about the reaction. He has made a judgment about what the young man would prefer, a judgment the young man did not ask for. It may not land well. But Luca does not make books to please customers in the moment of reception. He makes them to last. The young man will live with the book for years. The restraint of the blind tooling will, Luca believes, were better than gold would have. He might be wrong. He has been wrong before. But he does not think he is wrong about this. He picks up the psalter one more time. He opens it, carefully, gently, the way you open a book that is newly bound and not yet broken in. The spine needs to be worked slowly over the first weeks, opening a little more each time, until it lies fully flat without strain. The text page visible is a psalm he recognizes. He knows it from the church, from childhood, from the accumulation of a lifetime of Sundays. He does not read it now. He simply sees it, the clean black letters on white paper, the simple red initial at the beginning, the space around the text that the scribe has left. The page is held by his binding. The binding keeps the page safe, keeps it present, makes it accessible to the woman who will carry it to Santa Croce on cold mornings. He has not written the psalm. He has not copied it. He simply ensured that it will survive. This seems, to him, a worthy thing to have done. He closes the book gently. He thinks about Bernardo. His master died 11 years ago. He was in his 80s, which was a remarkable age, and he was binding books until 5 years before his death, stopping only when his hands, which had been extraordinary, became too unreliable. Luca visited him in the last year. The old man lived with his daughter's family in the courtyard di Santo Spirito. He was diminished physically but not mentally. He still talked about books with a precision that reminded Luca of his apprenticeship. The binding outlasts the binder, Bernardo said, in one of those visits. He did not say it mournfully. He said it as a fact. The books Bernardo made are still in the world. Some of them Luca has seen. He can recognize his master's hand in certain details of spine construction, a particular way of handling the headband. The books go on. Bernardo does not. Luca's books will go on after him, in the same way. This is not comforting, exactly. It is simply true. He has made peace with it. He puts on his cloak. blows out the lamp he has been carrying. The night lamp near the door provides the only light, a small, steady flame that turns the workshop into a world of shadow and the suggestion of things. The press is a dark shape. The books on their shelf catch a glint of light. He takes his hat from the peg. Opens the workshop door. The night air of Florence. Cool and stone-smelling, with the trace of wood smoke from 1,000 hearths. The lane is narrow here, barely 2 people wide. The buildings on either side rise 2 and 3 stories, their upper floors projecting slightly, closing the sky to a strip. He steps out and pulls the door shut behind him. The lock is a simple iron mechanism. He turns the key. The bolt drops. He drops the key into his coat. Stands for a moment in the lane. 56 steps from the workshop door to the house door. He knows this exactly. He counted once, on a day when he needed something to count. He walks them now. The lane is quiet. One window above has a light in it, someone working late, or a child sick, or simply someone who prefers lamplight to dark. He does not know who lives in that particular window. He knows many of his neighbors but not all. He passes the corner where a shrine to the Virgin stands in a niche in the wall. A small lamp burns before it. This lamp, like his workshop lamp, burns all night, every night, maintained by a woman he has never met whose family apparently sees to it. He nods at the shrine, a reflex of decades. The slight turn in the lane. The step up where the stones are uneven. The threshold of the house. He takes out his key. He opens the door. The smell of home, food cooking, and under that, the wool of the tapestries on the walls, and further under that, the old stone of the house itself. A smell that has been accumulating for 20 years of their marriage. Katerina is at the fire. She looks up. "Done," she says. "Done," he says. The press is set. The Petrarch is finished. She reads something in the way he says it. "Well?" "Well?" She goes back to the pot. He hangs his cloak and hat and goes to wash his hands, a reflex, the hands always washed before anything else. The water in the basin is cool. He washes thoroughly. When he comes back to the fire, Katerina has set 2 bowls. A ribollita, the Tuscan bread soup, dense and warm, exactly the right thing for an October evening. He sits. The soup is good. She makes it from the bread that has gone old, the economy of the kitchen, nothing wasted. Yesterday's bread becomes today's soup. A practice as old as the city. They talk across the table. She has had a letter from Fiora. Their eldest daughter as well. Her husband's business is stable. There is the possibility of a grandchild. Finally, Fiora has said nothing definitive, but Katerina has read the letter and found implications. Luca listens. He is careful with Fiora's news, careful not to hope too specifically for anything. He has learned this. He tells Katerina about the Petrarch. She knows the commission, she knows most of his commissions. She asks about the color. "Red," he says. "Very good leather." "Deep." "And the tooling?" "Arabesque." "Blind, not gilt." A pause. The young man wanted gilt. The young man wanted something beautiful, Luca says. I gave him something better. Katerina considers this. She has known him long enough to understand the distinction he is making. He'll either see it or he won't, she says. He'll see it, Luca says. They are quiet for a moment. He'll see it, she agrees. He sits in the chair near the fire while Katerina clears. He has offered to help and been declined. This is the usual negotiation. The fire is low but present. The wood is beech, which burns slowly and gives off an even heat. The sound of it is very quiet, not the snapping of green wood or the explosive pop of resinous pine, just a steady, low murmur. He is tired. The tiredness of 50, which is different from the tiredness of 30. At 30, the body recovers quickly, and tiredness is mostly pleasant, the earned exhaustion of a day's work. At 50, the tiredness is more complex. The back is stiffer. The eyes tire faster. The hands, which were the precise instruments of his craft, require more rest. But the mind is quieter than it was at 30. This seems like an adequate exchange. He sits and lets the fire be the thing he looks at. Katerina comes to sit across from him. She brings her mending, a piece of linen, a hem that has come loose. For a while they are simply in the same room, each occupied. The fire between them. This is the conversation they have most reliably. No words, but presence. The fact of two people who know each other well, sharing the end of a day. He thinks, watching her work, she is 54 now. There is gray in her hair she did not used to have. Her face has changed in ways he observes and does not observe. She is so familiar that he both sees her clearly and has a composite image of her from 26 years that occupies the same space. He married well. He knows this. He has known it for years. But it is worth thinking, now and then, in the warmth of a fire at the end of a long day. She looks up. Meets his eye. What? She says. Nothing, he says. She returns to the mending. Through the shuttered windows, the sound of Florence at night. The city does not sleep all at once. It subsides in waves. The busiest streets quieting first, the market areas, the streets of the tradespeople, and then later, the wealthier quarters where parties and music extend into the night, and later still the streets near the river, which have their own hours. Their street is quiet. He can hear, very faintly, the bell of a distant church. Not nearby. Perhaps the Badia, or Santa Croce, it is hard to tell, at this distance, which voice belongs to which campanile. They are all voices of the same city. They have rung every hour of his life. He thinks of Florence the way he thinks of the workshop, as a known thing. A thing whose qualities and limits and particular character he understands from the inside. He has never felt the need to leave it. Some men do. They want to see Venice, or Rome, or the cities of the north. He understands the impulse. He has never had it himself. What he has here is enough. More than enough. Down the mending. Katerina sets the mending aside. Shall we sleep? She says. He stands. His back announces itself. He banks the fire. This is his ritual, as the workshop fire is his ritual. He uses the long-handled poker to arrange the coals into a compact mass, then covers them with ash from the edges of the hearth. The fire will hold through the night and can be coaxed back to full heat in the morning. He has done this so many times that the motion is pure habit. The coals glow under their ash covering. The room darkens as the firelight diminishes. Katerina lifts the lamp. They move toward the stair. The bedroom is simple. He has never wanted for excess in the house. The money that might have been spent on decorative objects or elaborate furnishings has gone instead to the workshop, to good tools, to quality materials. The room has a bed, wide, with a good mattress stuffed with wool and herbs, 2 chests for clothing, and a small shelf with a pottery lamp and a crucifix above the door. The window has heavy shutters, currently closed. Katerina sets the lamp on the shelf. They prepare for sleep. The familiar movements, the unlacing, the folding of the day's clothes, the small rituals that are identical from one night to the next. Outside the shutters, the wind has picked up slightly. He can hear it moving through the lane, a soft sound, irregular. Tomorrow he will need to look at the roof of the workshop. There is a tile he has been watching for 2 weeks. He notes this and releases it. Tomorrow. Katerina reaches for the lamp. He is lying down now. The mattress takes his weight. The blanket is heavy, October weight, the heavier cover that comes out of the chest after the summer blanket goes away. She puts out the lamp. Dark. The kind of Florence dark that is not absolute, a line of pale light at the edge of the shutter where the street lamp outside sends its thread of brightness. The faint orange glow of the banked fire, carried up through the house in some way he cannot explain, a warmth rather than a light. Katerina settles beside him. Her breathing slows almost immediately. She has always been a faster sleeper than he is. He lies on his back and looks at the ceiling. He cannot see the ceiling. But he knows it. Low. The plaster slightly uneven at one edge. He has looked at it for 20 years. Passing through. The images of the day move through him. The salters paste down under the bone folder, the bubble flattening under steady pressure. The way the right corner of the leather came true. The Petrarch in the lamplight. The red cover catching the light. The blind tooling emerging. Pietro's question. Which do you trust? Both. You start with the dividers and finish with the eye. The woman from the Altrarno district. Something that will outlast me. The precise, unfussy way she said it. The press under tension. The quiet clunk of the screw at the right position. The boards for the Guild Commission. The one with the slight warp, repositioned. Bernardo's voice. The binding outlasts the binder. Said as a fact, with no mourning in it. Katerina's hand on the mending. Fiora's possible news. The stars above the rooftops. These images move through him without urgency. Without the charge they had while the day was happening. They are quieter now. Settling. The day is releasing him. His breathing slows. The workshop is closed and locked, 56 steps away. The press is set. The salter is under pressure. The red Petrarch sits on its shelf, the blind arabesque on its cover waiting for the morning light to show it. The tool rack is complete. The paste pot is covered. The night lamp burns. Tomorrow Pietro will arrive before him and check the press and the boards and the tools. Tomorrow the merchant's man will come for the ledger. Tomorrow the woman from the Altrarno will come for the psalter. But that is tomorrow. Tonight the workshop is quiet, and the house is quiet, and the city is subsiding toward its deepest hours. Caterina breathes beside him. Luca breathes. In. Out. The work is done. The books are made. The binding holds. Sleep now. Just sleep. The dark is complete. And all is well.